Okay, I think I've got 131 now. How are we doing?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Executive Committee meeting with the Workforce Development Council. We have a full agenda, so I'd like to call our meeting to order at 1:31 p.m. this afternoon. My name is Ken Louie, Chair of the Council, as well as the Executive Committee, and our Carrie Mashiro over there, also present in the room with me. A couple housekeeping items. This is a public meeting under the Open Meetings Law. Some committee members and public guests are viewing via Zoom, while a number of us are here at room 310. Here at the offices of the Department of Labor and Industrial Relations. And to start the meeting and to document in the minutes, I will first do a roll call of our members, and then I will ask for our guests to introduce themselves with their name and organization. Please be mindful the chat box is disabled. Okay, here are the names for our roll call. First myself, Vice Chair Carrie Miyashiro. Here. Cheryl Cross.
Here.
Keith Danilo. Here. Dion Dizon. I think I saw her sign on. Give her a chance.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to get off mute from my phone. Chair, I'm present, but I also wanted to just say that if there are any voting items that I'm not sure how it's possible to move up or rearrange the agenda. I'm actually at a conference, so my time is not my own. I'm on group travel here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, we'll try and get whatever issues require a vote to try and get that expedited. Derek Kanahira? Here. And Carla Kurokawa, I think I saw her sign on.
Here.
Thank you, Carla. Sean Knox, I believe, is on travel. Tron Malone?
Here.
Thank you, Tron. Tui Scanlon?
Is on travel as well.
Also on travel. Kelly Ueoka?
Here.
Thank you, Kelly. And Lorna Wu?
Here.
Thank you very much. Okay, great. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We good? I think we got quorum. Great. I'd like to allow the other members and guests to introduce yourselves. Let's see, do we have a listing of who's on here? And scroll to the right. I see Melissa Robbins. Is that correct?
Yes, good afternoon. This is Melissa Robbins. I am the CEO of the National Association of Workforce Development Professionals, and I am here to answer technical assistance questions as they relate to fiscal matters.
Thank you for joining, Melissa. Maricar Pilotin Freitas, I see your name here.
Aloha, Chair. Maricar Pilotin Freitas with the Workforce Development Division.
Great, thanks for joining, Maricar. A couple of other names here. Amanda. It's not the full name, but go ahead. Pedigo.
Yes, my name is Amanda Pedigo. I am with Stoffel. I am an SME, and I'm also here for technical assistance just to provide any answer any questions that may arise.
Great, thank you, Amanda. Harrison Kuranishi.
Good afternoon, Chair. Harrison Cornishi, Oahu Workforce Development Board.
Thank you, Harrison. What is FinNK?
I think that's house site finance.
Oh, finance. Okay, can we move on?
Yeah.
Thomas, I think I recognize your name. I think you're on.
Hi everyone, my name is Thomas Louie. I am with Pac Marine, supporting whatever the council needs.
Whatever I need. Thank you, Thomas. Frank Rogozienski, if I pronounced that correctly.
Hi, my name is Frank from Speaker Psyche's office.
Oh, thank you, Frank. And also we have a dial-in from a 255-9674 number. Any other guests or members of the committee that haven't called are attending? Okay. If anyone joins, please let me know and then we'll try and identify that. Moving on then. The next item on the agenda, item 2, we're canceling that item. We had some technical difficulties with that one, so we'll take that up at the next meeting. Just for the point of order, we did take that up with the OIP, the Office of Information Practices, and then they advised us that it's better to cancel this item as long as the draft minutes are posted 40 days after the meeting, which we'll be in compliance of. So we'll do the approval of the minutes at the next committee meeting. Let's see, can we move on to item 3? Do we know if Donovan's? Okay.
Wait, hang on, let me just find it.
We can still go
We
ahead.
can,
We
yeah.
can still go ahead with that. Okay, item 3.
Okay.
Okay, for item 3 on the agenda, let me make sure we're in alignment here. I'd like to announce my nomination of the new Assistant Vice Chairman of the Executive Committee, and that is Senator Donovan De La Cruz, the Senate designee to the WDC. And as background, section 6.4 of the WDC bylaws states the following.
And it's on the board packet.
Board packet
Page
page
7.
7, I think it's also
Page 7 and 8, yeah.
7 and 8, yeah. The executive committee shall be composed of the chairperson, the vice chairperson, assistant vice chairperson, and the chairpersons or vice chairpersons of the standing committees. So there is a position available, the assistant vice chairperson, which is currently vacant. We don't have anyone. The bylaws under section 4.4, page 7, the assistant vice chairperson shall assume the duties of the vice chairperson in the absence of the vice chairperson, and will undertake such other duties as may be assigned by the vice chairperson. Any member of the council may nominate an assistant vice chairperson. The nominated assistant vice chairperson shall be approved by the council upon the concurrence of at least the quorum of the council. The assistant vice chairperson shall serve until his or her successor is approved by the council upon the concurrence of at least a quorum of the council. So stated in the bylaws, the final board action to approve the nominated vice chairperson will be on the agenda of the next quarterly board meeting on August 22nd. Section 6.4 stipulates that the executive committee reviews and makes recommendations on all personnel matters, council governance and compliance matters, standing committee matters, and other matters as directed by the council. So with that as background, I would like to seek approval of the executive committee from the executive committee on this nomination. Assuming that be the case, we will then forward this committee's recommendation on to the full board when it meets next month. Okay. Any questions? Okay, I would like to entertain a motion to recommend Senator Donovan De La Cruz to be the Assistant Vice Chair of the Executive Committee.
Carla Kurokawa, I move to approve the recommendation of Senator Donovan De La Cruz as Vice Chair.
Thank you, Carla. Do I have a second? I think I heard Derek.
Second.
Thank you, Derek. And you all jumped in there, so thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any members wishing to vote no? And are there any abstentions? Okay, record reflect, it was unanimous. Recommendation has been approved and will now be forwarded to the full board for further action. Thank you, everyone. Is Senator going to be present?
He's on his way.
Okay. Well, I would like to say, if he's not on now, but later, I do appreciate Senator De La Cruz's interest and support of the council, and I'm sure he'll make a great associate vice chair. No, okay. Okay, and then at this point, I'd like to introduce WDC Executive Director Bennett. Good to see you here. Yeah, a little drama, sorry, but it's good to see you here. So I'll turn it over to you for your updates.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so I hope people can see our. Okay. Let me see if the one that just joined us, is that you, Senator? Or Colin? Okay, never mind, it's okay, we're gonna do that later. Aloha, everyone, good afternoon, and thank you, our council members for being here and attending, and I never take it for granted that you could be someplace else, but you're choosing to be here, staying committed to the issue of workforce development, so mahalo. So I'm going to, for many of you who've attended the committee meetings, these are topics that I've already talked about, so I'm not going to dwell too much on it because we do have a full agenda. But let me just share, and this is the, I guess the overarching report, but I'm going to move ahead and talk about some of the items that are on that report. So we have the unified plan. The important thing to remember is that there's going to be a board retreat, September 28th. Thank you to IBEW, who will be providing us again the venue for our board retreat. We're hoping to have a stakeholder summit in early October, and this is almost like a bookend. When we launch our unified plan, we engage our community, and so we're hoping to also engage them in the implementation as well. We're going through a transition right now, as many of you know, and mahalo in advance to the Workforce Development Division led by its administrator, Maricot Freitas, Pilotin Freitas. And we will be working closely. We are right now, we have no staff, and it's been a challenge administratively, but we're hoping that, in a very short while, it's almost like I can't even stop to do anything else. So because of our committee work, I'm hoping that when the last committee meets, which is sector partnership on August 1st, and then after that, our quarterly board meeting that gives us some relief, a window to be able to do some staffing. We're also needing to work on the transition plan. In the meantime, we really need to focus on what's in the best interest of the state, and that is really to make sure that there's a seamless transition between the functions and the roles and responsibilities of Workforce Development Division, now moving into Development Council. The important thing to also underscore is that we don't want to just recreate what happened or how the structure was in 2021 when the program ID was removed. We want to make sure that maybe the new structure can be better than that. So we're actually talking to other states, how they're structured, getting some job descriptions, and so that hopefully we can build a more robust infrastructure. This is an update on WDC's committees, and I'm actually very excited about what's going on in our committees. So I know that Derek is here, Trang is, we're also doing some resetting, but particularly special projects, employer engagement, youth services, and performance management, they all are resetting and are actually trying to cast a wide net as far as what the needs are and making sure that the committees are relevant. For instance, for special projects, their number one goal is making sure that we increase the activity at our American Job Centers. And we are optimistic that all these activities will result in good outcomes. I also wanted to share with you a subcommittee that the Workforce Development Commission has, Council has taken on as a project or a program. There was a long-term care summit that was led by Senator Shari Moriwaki, and it was to address the needs and the challenges of quality long-term care. As you know, this is for our kupunas and disabled population. There were 4 areas that were identified: quality of care, financing, services and systems, and workforce development. And we have been given the task of chairing the subcommittee on workforce development. So the focus is on recruitment, retention, and training. By the way, I'm looking at Cheryl Cross, maybe you can be part of this subcommittee, because with your new, congratulations, by the way, to our council member Cheryl Cross. But this is a.
Director, excuse me, Director, sorry. I couldn't help but notice Senator Dela Cruz had his hand up for a
Oh,
question.
sorry. Okay, you know what, we're looking at the PowerPoint, so we don't see what else is going on. Senator, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe a couple slides back.
Yeah.
When you talked about the reorganizing of WDC, the
Yes,
staffing and transition plan.
yes.
I think before we even start to figure out what positions and what the salaries and how it's organized, everyone should be on the same page of what we're trying to accomplish. And there might be some limitations on federal law. We can always change state law, but I don't want to. I want to have real outcomes, and I just don't want us to try to fit into a box, and then we're working within that box versus really looking at the needs and working backwards and making sure that's what the staff actually produces for us.
I quite agree, 100%, 101%. So
Yeah. So, but we have. It's before you start creating positions or asking for positions, I want you guys to explain what we're trying to achieve first.
sure, will do. And it needs to be linked to the unified plan as well, because again, that may be part of the board retreat, which is in September. So that then whatever outcomes is tied in, whatever the structure is tied into the outcomes, as you had mentioned.
Okay, because I feel like lots of departments are just doing same old, same old. They don't even look at their statute to see what they're supposed to try to accomplish for the state. And then it's just busy work without any real outcomes.
Yeah. We would love to make sure that you're plugged in. Would somebody from your staff be made part of the conversation?
Yeah, no, I mean, my office is already working with workforce development with DOE, community colleges, P20. We didn't really engage you guys, but that's part of the reason why I funded Hele Imua. And there's two things I think that we have to look at. There's existing jobs, like you talked about with the senior population, but there's also job creation and making sure that we can support growing industries. And I don't feel like that's really something that we paid attention to.
Thank you for that insight, and for taking notes and making sure that those insights are incorporated into the design of the new structure. We have 7 positions total, 6 excluding me. So 3 are supposed to be for fiscal management purposes, and then the rest are programs. So we can talk about it on the side later on as far as what the roles and responsibilities of each of those programs. Because on the fiscal side, I think they're pretty much set. In fact, we have current positions that will just need to migrate and will be paid for by the WIOA funds. But we have a little bit more leeway on the 3 program specialist positions.
And all of the 7 are federally funded.
Yes, supposedly, but 3, all of them are civil service. And again, we might need to have some conversations because as you know, it takes about 6 to 9 months to onboard a civil service, maybe shorter if they're internal, but that's one of the challenges that we face, because in the interim, monitoring and the performance of WIOA still needs to be accounted for. So that's why it's important for Maricar and our council to really work closely together to be able to make sure there's a seamless transition, because we cannot let anything fall through the cracks.
Yeah, that's where I go back to. I think as we look at both WDC and WDD, if to avoid personality conflicts and any kind of internal politics within the department, the board should really look at, and my office can look at it separately, of what do we have to change in state statute so that there's a lot more synergy between both WDC and WDD. Because right now, the current situation is unacceptable with the internal politics at Department of Labor.
Point well taken.
So just for the record and to add, I do know that when I joined as a committee member and a volunteer before joining council, Senator, that there was a WIOA specialist when Allison Tasaka was the executive director. And even though I was very new, it just felt like.
Sorry, I don't know who's talking.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Cheryl Cross.
Aloha, Cheryl Cross.
Hi.
Councilwoman. So I loved that because if we had specific questions, we could go and have that point person. So I really look forward to a culture where we have those people, those subject matter experts. Again, WIOA and federal dollars, as someone who's worked in the federal space and taken that money on behalf of management consulting firms, we don't want to mess that up, right? And I know it's a concern of yours as well.
And I know the senator also is concerned about the interaction, or I guess the dynamics with UH, with community colleges, and he talked to me at length about the continuum of care. Is that right? Continuum of education.
No, well, it's basically Keiki to career.
There you
And
go.
so how are we in the bigger picture, which I don't think there's actually a strategy. There's a lot of goals, but there's really there's not very much strategy between, and Kelly knows what I'm talking about, with let's say computer science. What's really happening at the primary school to prepare kids at middle school and high school for jobs. They either can go community college, either AA or CTE or bachelor's, and then internship, and then and making sure that that whole first part of their life in education already prepares them for a job, possibly even without a degree, to work in the industry. And that's not necessarily happening. I know PACSA went on their own to try to come up with a program because the community colleges and DOE weren't producing the results that even a company like PACSA was trying to, so they could hire locals.
Okay. Again, probably a conversation that needs further
No, yeah, in the future, that's why I think at some point, DOE, community colleges, P20 should also be on the agenda giving us reports.
yeah, will do. Okay. Oh, so for maybe for the quarterly board meeting, we'll do that as well. Senator, any other questions or?
No, I mean, you can go on, but I just want to make sure that the staffing matches what the objectives that we want to achieve. I don't want us to morph our what we want to achieve to the organization we build. It should be the opposite.
Yeah, it is a great opportunity, actually. We're at a good time to be doing this so that then we can adjust and align everything and be able to get all the other stakeholders also to work with us.
Well, it'd be the first time.
I love your optimism. Okay, so let's see if I can do this back to sharing it. Okay, so hang on a second, where were we?
Zoom slideshow.
Oh, resume, where is it? Right there? Okay, there you go. Okay, so I was talking about the long-term care workforce subcommittee that I'm part of, and now we're going to have a third meeting, and these are some of the priorities that it has set. It's really at a very good time because they're trying the legislature to set aside some funds for a master plan. So just like us, they're also doing the same thing with SHPTA, also helping lead the way. So all the 4 subcommittees are meeting separately, but there's a steering committee, and we're hoping to, I think the master plan needs to be presented to the legislature by the beginning of 2025. So here's Our focus for the third and fourth quarter, again, personnel recruitment, operational transition, we're having our board retreat, starting to do budget planning, and of course, the Kauai transition is a big one. And the local boards need to do their strategic plans, and that's due probably mid-September. Here are some of the upcoming events. We have we're working with our consultants to do a board training. We call it WIOA Academy, to ensure that each of our board members really are steeped into WIOA and understand how to, make sure that they have the performance matrices and are able to be able to contribute their insights into the process. We're still planning to have an economic trends webinar very shortly with the National Governors Association. It was supposed to be in July, but because of other pressing needs, we postponed it, but we're still gonna have it. September, mark it on your calendar, is Workforce Development Month, and so there's a lot of activity during that time. And we're hoping to do a Future of Work conference with the Chamber of Commerce and also launching our second Workforce Development Heroes. Okay, that's all I have,
All
Chair.
right, thank you, Bennett. Any questions on her presentation? Any hands raised? Okay, at this time, we have a presentation on WIOA, the financial performance reports. As all of us know, effective July 1st of this year, WDC has purview of the WIOA federal funds, and according to federal law, our state board, or WDC, has a fiduciary responsibility on these funds. So it's imperative for our board to know the current status, and this will also set a baseline as we move forward towards transition. So our executive director, Bennett, will also share this financial information. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to again underscore that the board, this is part of our educating the board on the WIOA reports. There's a lot of information, so I'll try to simplify it and provide you some highlights. I'm also admittedly new to this, although I have a banking background. So we do have technical experts in the room. So we have Amanda and Melissa, who will provide us some additional input if you have questions. So they're on standby to respond to your questions. So these figures were presented to the Performance Management Committee this week. Yeah, this week. And so after this meeting, these reports will also be forwarded for discussion to the quarterly board meeting on August 22nd. A big mahalo to the ASO Administrative Services Officer, particularly Lena Rivera, who produced these reports. So before I go on and show you the Excel spreadsheet, I think it's important to note, especially for those who are not as familiar with WIOA, that the flow of funds is from the governor to the Director of Labor, and then in the past it was Workforce Development Division to the local areas. So now from the Director's office, it will then go to WDC, again, according to the plan that's being mapped out. The local areas have, so there's a total of 3 years within which we need to spend the money. Anything that we don't spend within 3 years will need to go back to the feds. So the local areas have 2 years to spend the monies. And then it goes then to the state for state funded activities. So there's a total of 3 years. Again, 2 years with the local areas, 1 year with the state. As a background, when the monies come, there's 5% for administrative purposes and 10% for program or statewide activities as well. So any questions on the flow of funds? So let me start with that. Any questions? Okay, so when you think about it, right, I'm gonna actually stop sharing because I'm going to go. Yes, go ahead. You have a question, Mr. iPhone? Hello?
I think he just catches that. That's Senator Taylor.
Ah,
Let's see if it comes up.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna see if I can find, there you go, okay. All right, so this is a status report of all the, or at least 3 grants that we have. This is, so PY 2021, if you remember, that is, those funds are ending as of June 30, 2024. Because there's already been 3 years, right, since they were allocated. So I wanted to just give you an overview. If we received 6.6 million, all of the counties and the state, we spent during that program year 4.9 million. Recaptured is what is from the counties to the state. So whatever the counties did not spend got allocated back to the state. And so recaptured funds is the technical terminology that they use. So we had 1.7 million that we were able to, or we had spent. So here is the status of those recaptured funds for PY 2021. If you look on the left-hand side, those are the sectors. So adults, youth, and dislocated workers. So out of the 1.7 that you saw up there that was recaptured, we had spent, or the state has spent 1.6 million. And there was a balance of about 126,000. My understanding from Lena is that out of that, there are still some invoices that are outstanding. So we anticipate about 80,000 that will be needing to be returned to the federal government. Okay, which is not bad, actually, okay? Although, of course, I think bottom line, as much as possible, we don't want to return any funds. So here is the PY 2022, okay? So again, and by the way, Harrison is there from the Oahu Workforce Development Board. And I thought Doug Adams said he might be coming from the Big Island as well, because they want to explain why some of these situations happen. So we had an allocation total of 8.7 million that was given to us for program year 2022, of which 4.3 million had been spent. So this is a little significant. 4.3 million is now what we call recaptured funds. So the state has 1 year until June 30, 2025 to spend these funds. Okay. For PY 2023, if you can save all your questions at the end, that's okay. So I can just go over this first, just so that we have some continuity. So for PY 2023, our allocation is 8.6 million. Remember now, like clockwork every year, not clockwork, but there is an anticipated amount, more or less between 9 and 10 million that is allocated to the state of Hawaii. I have a spreadsheet that shows that. So 8.6 million, there's no expenditures yet because July 1, 2024 just happened, even though the counties have had 1 year already of, the PY 2023. They are not allowed to use up 2023 until 2022 is done, is spent. So it's only now that they're able to access PY 2023. So the balance, so we're still, and that is lapsing on 2026. So Lena also gave us the quest, and the quest is for our the COVID. We were granted a total of about 10 million, right? 10.5 million. So for that, I'm going to just go to the bottom line again to simplify things. We've spent 3.2 million, and there is outstanding 7.3 million. The good news about this is that thanks to WDD, they were able to get a waiver and they extended the deadline. This was supposed to lapse June 30, 2024. So now we've bought some time and we can spend a little more of a little more time to spend the 7.3 million. So it's now lapsing in September 3rd, on September 30, 2025. This is Lahaina, and this is for the disaster relief. Initially, if you recall, it's like 25 million, but they gave us 15 million in the beginning. So, so far we've spent 3.5. There's still a balance of about 11 million. And I know that there are some things that contributed to it, but Carol was in, Kanayama was in our performance management committee, and she said that Maui Opportunity actually is on a good path. So I'm hoping that they're able to be able to spend the money by September 30, 2025. We're also hoping that we can ask other states who have had some disaster relief, how they, use up some of those funds. And I think Senator, is that you, iPhone?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
so can you just explain how long they had the money, what they were planning to do with the money, and why it hasn't been spent?
I'm gonna defer that to Maricar because I have no context of this conversation at all. Maricar, do you mind?
Hi, Senator, which funding source are we referring to?
The one she just presented about the 11 million?
Lahaina.
Okay, so the Lahaina, of course, those are expenditures because the workers are allowed to work a whole year. So the amount that's reflected there are expenses or wages that have been paid up to date. So the cleanup, normally disasters, they allow us a time period to do the cleanup work. So those wages, as the wages are paid, those expenditures should be reflected in the report during the coming month.
Right, so that's not a real number then?
No, because those are the wages that's paid.
Yeah, but she's saying that there's 11 million left.
Yeah, because they're still working until September 2025.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. So that 11 million is not real. When are you guys going to get a real number?
During the closeout next year.
Okay, so
this is Carol Kanayama. We get monthly financial reports from them, and as well as from ourselves. So the 11 million was them? MEO and our own internal, yeah. So the period of performance in September 30, 2025, we can ask for a 1-year extension if we need to. We don't think we will though, because the MEO grant, our contract with them started October 1. We got the federal grant late August. And then, so they've been spending, they started right away and they are spending at several $100,000 a month. So we're quite confident they will be able to use their share of the money. In fact, we're thinking we may need to ask for additional funds if there's still a need for these temporary jobs.
okay, can you guys put that in writing? Because I want to see an expenditure plan of the 11 million.
Oh, okay. We have a budget.
Yes, if you guys can show us an expenditure plan and a timeline.
Okay.
So you
number of participants and the earnings and projected to next year.
No, but I think it's good for us to understand now if we're going to have to ask for the extension or not. And if your calculations are somehow maybe the projections don't come through that you think that it's going to all be spent and we have money left, we should start thinking about a backup plan of how we're going to spend it to achieve some of our other objectives.
Okay, so Senator, because those are targeted just for the cleanup of the disaster, the money cannot be used to prevent future disasters. It's to clean up what, so that
No, that's
business.
fine. You give us the limitations and we can come up with ideas on how we're going to be able to still use the money for its intended purpose. But it doesn't, it sounds like we're just reacting to MEO and to what they're going to be able to pay some of these wages. But if there's still money left over, we should have a strategy. We shouldn't wait till the end,
We'll
because
get you
the maximum extension is 1 year.
Correct. So they're
Yeah.
spending at approximately 900,000. So
Yeah. So
we'll-
are they confident they're going to spend the 11 million before the deadline?
Yeah.
Do you have that in writing?
We have the numbers that they're enrolled in right now and the
No,
wages.
I'm asking if MEO is confident. If they're confident they're going to be able to spend the $11 million by the deadline, do you have that in writing as to what their plan on how to spend the 11 million?
We'll get that with them, but we do have a contract with them.
Yeah, but that's different than what I'm asking, because a contract is they're going to be able to implement, but I still don't know if there's a plan and a strategy to spend the 11 million. Because if they don't, at what point does it come back to the state to expend for the same purposes?
That every month. So as the numbers increase, the employment now, the participants, then those wages increase. So that's reflected in the monthly expenditure reports. So we'll continue to provide updates to all of you.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that MEO has a plan to spend it all. And if they cannot spend it, then we need to come up with a plan on how we're going to spend it within the allotted time, within the restrictions.
Correct.
I just would hope we're a little more proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah.
What if we don't agree with how MEO is spending it? What kind of conversations do we have?
Well, we wouldn't be reimbursing them for those costs because it has to be an allowable activity under the grant.
Yeah, but what if their priorities are different than ours?
Like, can you give an example?
So I don't have anything, I don't see what MEO's focuses are as to, these are the top 3 things we're trying to accomplish with the 11 million.
Right.
So if we know that what their top 3 things are, and we can see, okay, is that something that we agree with or not?
Yeah, so it has to be an allowable activity. It's either humanitarian or cleanup that is in the disaster area.
Yeah, but that's so broad. I'm just saying within that, they still have to figure it out. Because you're saying it's really to pay wages that I guess the employer could not normally pay during that time period?
No.
Okay,
So,
how are you spending it?
So for example, those employees that pass out food distribution or clothing, or to do the cleanup road work that was damaged, debris from the fire. So those are the activities. MEO is the employer of record, and they pay those wages to those workers.
Directly, not to the employer?
Not to the employer.
Okay, so MEO is hiring all these people and they're going to pay.
Correct. We can't pay the wages to the employer. It has to be to the participant.
So all of these people are now MEO employees.
Correct. And the difference between that with our work experience is because it reduces liability to the state, and they can onboard them quicker.
Okay, so how long do they stay MEO employees?
1 year, the maximum.
Okay.
So that's
How
why
does
those.
that?
Pardon me?
Now, how does that fit in with the overall recovery? Because if the county and the state are also paying for these kind of positions and contracts, is it duplicative? And
I'm not sure where the county's funds are coming from, but this one was a special grant that the state applied for to assist with the cleanup and the recovery. And part of the eligibility criteria includes those that were impacted by the fire. So it's not any.
no, I get that. It's just a different approach. What I hear is that, okay, this is what we're eligible to spend the money, so we're gonna just spend the money, versus what are we trying to accomplish and how do we spend the money to achieve what we're trying to accomplish?
To assist the cleanup so that people can get to work.
Yeah,
And
no,
that's what this
yeah, I get
disaster-
that. But then how is that connected to what the county is doing as far as the cleanup and the state is doing as far as the cleanup? Because if it almost sounds like MEO is just going to hire anybody so they can spend the money, and we don't even know how that interacts with the rest of it, the rest of the ongoing cleanup efforts.
We'll have those discussions. We do invite the county as part of our meetings.
Okay, because I never heard once during the last legislative session when the county and the state is asking for money for recovery efforts that MEO is going to pay a certain percentage for employee cleanup or for employees to help with the cleanup.
Cleanup and humanitarian.
Okay, and maybe we just should look at the MEO reports to see exactly what those are.
We'll get those to you.
And then whatever the expenditure plan and timeline. Disaster recovery is so broad. So, you know, they could be doing something, but if there's already state dollars going toward it or county dollars, I'm not sure why we pivot and do something else within disaster recovery.
Well, we got this 1 week after, I think, 1 or 2 weeks after the fire broke out. We applied for these grants.
Yeah. Okay, but talking to Haima and talking to Maui County, they never ever mentioned that this is also a resource that they're using.
We'll bring that up with Maui County when we have our meeting with the executive director in that local area. Because Leslie, the board chair for Maui, as well as Chantel, have been invited from our initial implementation and to discuss these grants and how to deploy it in their county.
Okay, can we see the MOU between the MEO and Maui County?
No, because the contract is between us.
Yeah, I know, but MEO can't just send people down the street to go start cleaning up.
Yeah.
There has to be some kind of agreement with the county to allow MEO employees to enter the fire area and do certain things. Who gives them access to the recovery areas?
They're probably working. We'll ask Debbie.
You know what I'm saying? MEO has no rightful authority to just send people in to a fire area to do any kind of activity.
Well, they're not in the hazard zone, so if that's where Haima is focused on.
Yeah, well, that's right. I don't know what they're doing, so that's why I want to see what they're doing. And there has to be some agreement with the county, so there's not duplication of effort. How would MEO even know where to send their people?
Senator, would you like me to, proceed with this?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess at the next meeting, hopefully Maricar can present those details.
Okay. Thank you. All right, I think Chair has a question and it's on this spreadsheet, so I'm just gonna.
Oh, yeah, I just made a note. So Marek, or maybe can you share with us, maybe any insights that you have about how the WDC plans to spend the remaining 4.4 million of recaptured funds for fiscal year 22? It seems to be a lot larger than the previous year. I think it was, what, 1.6 million?
That's correct, Chair. So that has to be discussed. I think that's part of the transition plan that the executive director has been instructed to reach out to the director's office.
Okay, yeah, given that we have a year, we better act quickly to get those funds spent and identify any and all purposes for it. So, yeah, well, let's make that a priority to get that.
Yeah, because any expenditures will have to be under 682210 statewide employment activities. So there's a list of allowable activities under the federal regulations. So that's under 20 CFR 682210.
Yeah, thank you, Maricar. Melissa, would you kindly share with us your expert insight as to what the role of the board is as far as recaptured funds, if you can enlighten us?
Sure. So I think I'd like to go back to something that the senator said that I think is a great idea moving forward with these recaptured funds. He asked for an expenditure plan between, we're talking about the Lahaina fires in that situation, but talking about an expenditure plan between now and the end of the grant. I think as we move forward to make sure that Hawaii does get to use all of the funds allocated to Hawaii, if you see low expenditure rates in a particular local area or at the state, to ask for those expenditure plans early and often to make sure that as a board, you guys are prepared for whatever recaptured funds you could be dealing with. At this point, with those recaptured funds, those 4.3, I think it would be an idea for, again, the board to consider the possibilities of the statewide activities. Now, you're going to need the assistance of the fiscal staff to tell you where funds might be needed, ideas for potential funds that could be brainstormed as well with the committees of the board. Under these allowable activities, here are some of the things that we could do for the state of Hawaii, and then go back to that priority. So again, kind of piggybacking on something that the senator said, to make sure that the board has set their priorities and how that funding is going to be spent.
So Melissa, I think it's still ambiguous as far as who has jurisdiction over PY 2022 and PY 2023 recaptured funds, because our mandate, I guess if you want to call it that, only started July 1st, 2024. We're still trying to get clarity as far as who gets to decide on the disposition of those funds. But no matter who does end up deciding about how to spend the monies, my understanding is that the board still needs to be consulted, right? And that there should be input from the council.
Absolutely. I believe the chair.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Bennett, we should just assume that we have control. And if they can prove that we don't, then let them do it. But until then, we should just take the lead.
Okay,
I would agree. At the end of the day, the board and the chair said this early at the beginning of the meeting, the board has fiduciary responsibility regardless of WDC, WDD, and that transition that's happening. Now, again, I understand that Hawaii law sometimes is different in federal law in some situations, but that money has been allocated to the state of Hawaii. And ultimately, this board would set that priority regardless of WDD, WDC, and what happens underneath it. So yeah, the board would still have a say in priority.
Melissa, I do have a question. What citations are you referring to?
Marikar, I don't have those in front of me for this meeting, but I can definitely send them to you. Again, this comes down to the state board having the fiduciary responsibility, the governor ultimately, and the board being set up by the governor. So how the funds are actually expended and whether it's WDD, WDC, the transition before or after, as far as the administrative, the actual spending of the money, the board doesn't change.
No, I'm not arguing that. We just wanted to know the citation because there's in the federal regulations, it does state that it does not relieve the governor from the liability as the grantee of these funds.
Correct. It does not relieve the governor of, right, the governor still has fiduciary responsibility. So the governor, not necessarily a governor in name, but the governor via position, and the board the same way has that responsibility. Those don't change. And I can send those to you, Marikar and Bennett.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna.
I just want to clarify then, Bennett, because it sounds like the board responsibility, and if the board doesn't implement or does not meet what is required, then the governor could step in because he has a fiduciary responsibility.
Correct.
So ultimately, the board should take some kind of action before it gets to that point.
Correct. So we can offline this discussion because I think that's one of the items that need to be threshed out in the transition plan. Particularly the disposition, because I think it's important to have a protocol process by which those funds are allocated, whatever items it's intended for. Okay, all right. Carla, you have a question. Raise your hand.
Yes, moving forward, I was wondering, like, especially with the Lahaina budget, but also the others, is there a way to not only show expenditures, but what is already obligated? Because it sounds like, like for the Lahaina one, a lot of expenditures are, not a lot, expenditures are reported, but it sounds to me like you may have a lot of monies obligated just to kind of gear, how the expenditures are flowing and how much we can expect of to be recaptured. But I was wondering, in the flow of the funds, how quickly does it take monies to get down to the providers that actually do the work? Because I don't know what goes on at the local level, but it seems that the monies are available to be used. But yet there's many times in this county, Hawaii County, I know of participants being put on a wait list because they're waiting for funds, or participants being referred to another provider because they are out of funds. So when I look at the budget and there seems to be available funds, I'm thinking, what is, why aren't the providers receiving the funds in a timely manner? Why are the providers saying we don't have monies to spend to the participants looking for services when in fact there are monies available? I'm sure there's an answer. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
Erica, would you like to respond to that, or maybe Harrison, does that happen to Oahu? I don't know if Harrison is still with us.
Maybe I could just briefly explain the funnel of money. It goes from the state to the local chief elected official. So it's up to the county which providers, based on the request for proposals, are awarded with these funds. So I'm not sure each local area have their own funding mechanism. They gotta go to the council for approval of funds before they contract with John Doe or Jane Doe. So once we contract with the county, so for example, another program, it's at the county level. Those funds have not been awarded to anyone yet. So we're at that point where we are recapturing those funds and giving it to another local area. So that state level negotiation have to occur. So maybe you're all on those local boards. You can be asking the same questions to your local ED, why those contracts are not being awarded to the service provider.
Okay. Carla, I'm gonna, sorry. We're gonna defer that, and I will get Clinton to respond to your question. Richard, can you help me? There's one more spreadsheet that I need to share, and it's called, it's like the youth financial report. Yeah. Okay. This is, and I'm sorry, this is taking a lot of time, but this is important. And okay, so this one. Okay, I just wanted to share with you this very important spreadsheet. The one on the left. Sorry, yeah. Okay. All right. So if you take a look at this is more the detailed view, and this is the one that I actually. It would keep me up at night, because, so if you take a look at PY 2022, this is the allocated amount for, like, say, youth. So this is by sector, okay? So youth, adults, and dislocated worker. So for youth, we the funding that was provided to all the counties was 2.8 million as of, and this is for PY 2022.
That's right.
Oh, 23, sorry, all right. Gotta go then, PY 22. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is PY 2022. The allocation was for 2.9 million. They spent 1.3 million, and 1.5 million is the recaptured funds. Okay, this is for PY 2022. So if you take a look at the spend rate, Maui actually did the best at 69%. The worst was Kauai at 25%. But look at the number of participants. We have 95, and this is for 2 years, by the way. So we have 95 on Oahu, 79 for Hawaii County, Maui had 29, and Kauai had 4. So the cost per participant is really significant. It's about 8,000, almost 9,000 for Oahu, 3,200 for Hawaii County. Maui has 8,000 and 10,500 for Kauai. We need to really work on this. This is not their problem. This is everybody's problem. So I'd like to underscore that we can't just leave anybody in the lurch and let them figure it out. I think all of us, it behooves all of us to figure out how to improve the participation. So in the end, again, the reason why we're sharing this is to create the baseline, to have a shared understanding of what it was, and hopefully we will start seeing improvements because of everybody's concerted efforts. Okay, so that's for, as we said, for 2023, there's no expenditures left yet. And then for 2024, it's already allocated. The monies has been allocated. There was a bulletin that came out July 16, and 2.5 million is allotted for FY 2024. Okay, so it's like nipping at the heels. They have 1 year to spend the money with the remaining monies. Okay, you know what? I think this is only for you, so I'm gonna just stop sharing this. But there is another, I think for those of you who have it on your packet, it's on page 29. Okay, so, Chair, I think that's all I have for financial reports.
All right, thank you, Bennett. Well, continuing on as far as our understanding and education of how the federal funds flow to Hawaii. There's a formula, and 85% of these funds are directly given or allocated to the local areas or counties. And the formula for that allocation I'm going to turn it over to Maricar to explain how the formula works so that we have a better understanding of that. So Maricar, if you would.
Hi, Chair. Thank you. So,
So you know, sorry, Marika. I gave them a copy of the bulletin that you sent as of July 15. Yeah.
That's good. So those numbers are derived. Okay, so like I think you said the Congress provides allotment through all the 50 states and the territories. And so that gets divvied up based on factors that's already in the regulations. Yeah. And then the amount that comes to Hawaii, it was also noted in the Unified State Plan on page 153 to 157, I think. So in the federal regulations, it does state, as well as the WIOA law, that 33%, this is for youth, 33% of there's factors. So 33% areas of substantial unemployment, excess number of unemployed, 33%, and economically disadvantaged youth. So those factors are used in providing the allocation to each local area. We get the numbers from BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and then we divvy up those money. But keep in mind that there's a 90% hold harmless for local areas, so that it allows some kind of continuity. So there's no deep fluctuation in the amount that allocated to the local areas. Same thing for the adult and the dislocated worker. So the adult, okay, let me go to the dislocated worker. Okay, dislocated worker, there's insured unemployed, total unemployed, farmer rancher data, long-term unemployed, and declining industries. Because plant closing, they no longer capture that data. We assign a 0 weight on that plant closing data. So those are divvied up, and the numbers from those local areas on these numbers are used as a factor to allocate those funds to the local area. So hopefully that makes sense. So you can refer to the unified plan as well as the WIOA law itself on the factors that's used to allocate, or the formula used to allocate these funds.
Okay, so if I follow along with you, Maricard, the formulas are described in pages 37, 38 of the packet. And how those funds get allotted to each county, that's how.
Correct. Using the factors in the federal regulations.
Okay, thank you.
And then we get those data from Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Okay, my understanding is that the WDC has to approve of these formulas.
It says it's on the regulations itself. Functions of the state board, it's on 679-130. It says the development. So the development was included and approved by the state board as part of the unified plan. So every year it does not deviate, but the numbers per local area will fluctuate depending on the BLS data. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But do we need board, I guess, Melissa or Amanda, do we need board action, executive board action here, committee, and then to be forwarded to the full board? And I guess the context of this is that the bulletin has been issued, and I thought we're going to backtrack a little because it's after the fact. But I thought that the council needs to approve the allocation formula. Or don't we need it to anymore because it was incorporated in the state plan. So could you provide some clarity on that?
Yes. So the board does not need to take any action on the formula as it was approved by the board during the state planning process. Now, again, I think it was our understanding at one point, Bennett, that the board hadn't been involved in that. So I think that's where maybe a little of the confusion came from on putting it on this agenda. But yes, if the allocation, is referred to in the plan, which it has to be for the plan, the board has approved the plan that has been submitted. As Maricar said, so the dislocated worker formula doesn't change, right? The TEGL is the same year after year, depending on those factors. The youth and adult states can actually choose between one of two allocation methods, that 33, 33, 33 that Hawaii has choose to go through, or a discretionary allocation. But again, that's put in all of the states' plans. So the board would only need to approve that every time there would be a new plan submission.
Okay, so for this one, since we've never really had any, we approved the unified plan, but not the allocation formula itself. Do you think we should act on it, or can we just dispense with it, considering that it is part of the unified plan, which the board did approve?
I think that it would be cleaner to use this as an informational of explaining to the board how the allocation process works and how the formula works. I don't think there needs to be another, my opinion is there doesn't need to be another action because the board has action on record approving the plan. And then, again, in the creation of the next state plan, if the board would like to be involved in, or needs to be involved in picking the 33, 33, 33 allocation versus that would be the appropriate time.
Okay.
All right. Yep, we'll go ahead and skip the approval of the executive approval of both the allocation formula.
Yeah, just for your clarification, those are spelled out in 679-130 item I of the federal regulations.
Maricar, this is Derek. I just had a question in reviewing the documents. In the board packet on page 33, you have the youth activity state allotments, and for the state of Hawaii for program year 2024.
That's your program, the program bulletin that you had.
Yeah, I think there was an error, so we have to amend that for page 2.
Yes, because it
Yeah.
said 3.3 million, but on page 2, you have 3.5 million.
Correct.
So which is
Thank you, Derek.
Okay, so which is the correct number? Should page 2 say 3.385 million?
Correct.
And so then the state level funds, local area funds, and all of
We
those.
will amend that because that number is wrong.
Okay,
Also in your packet, you, Marika alluded to the disposition of how it's broken down for each state, and I sent you a copy of that. And you will note that for PY 2024, we had a 10% reduction. So from 10 million to 9.3 million, just so you know.
thanks, Marika.
Thank you, Derek, for catching that.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to item 7 of the agenda. The U.S. Department of Labor conducts periodic monitoring of the state's WIO operations, and their last monitoring was in September of last year. The Hawaii Department of Labor responded to these findings, and all the pertinent documents relating to these findings are in the pack in front of you. Please note that the council has requested these reports from the WDD in the past. And when we looked at the minutes from the previous years, we found monitoring reports to the board. Marika, if you could provide an update on the DOL findings?
Yes. Yes, Chair. So the response was submitted to DOL, I think, in January. They are still under review. We did follow up, and as every other agency, they're inundated with having short staffing. So they are under review, and hopefully we'll get some feedback from them soon.
Okay, thank you. If anyone, I encourage you to read I think it starts on page 43 of the packet for the DOL findings. Any questions? Okay, I'd like to call again on our executive director to provide us with an overview of the current Kauai situation, where the WDC is expected to act as a local workforce development board. Manette will also give an update on the plans for Kauai.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, so I don't have a PowerPoint here, but I just wanted to, I think for in your packet, there are 2 letters, one dated 2022 and one dated 2023 from the ETA, wherein the Kauai situation was one where the Workforce Development Council will need to act as a local board. This is really kind of outside of our wheelhouse, if you want to say that. So we need to have a transition plan that would allow us to function as such. So in your packet on page 74 or 75 is a plan that we hope to present to the director as well as to the mayor. And in it, Marika, I sent a copy of that to you as well because the U.S. Department of Labor had a copy as well. And in it, we talked about how we need to include developing of the budget, development of the local area plans, and a transition plan that we hope by, I think on this January 1, we will fully transition where the go ahead.
Sorry, Bennett, where can I get the packet?
It's for the board, so I didn't give a copy, but I can send it to you right now if you want.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that's okay. I was looking online. Thanks.
Yeah, hang on a second. Yeah, we, okay, hang on. Let's see, sentence. To give her paper copies so she has access to. Yeah, do you wanna give this to Marika? Yeah. Help is on the way. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so.
And thank you to whoever did
I
write
did.
it on the bottom. That's so helpful. Thank you. Now, America, you can follow along.
Thank you.
Because of sunshine law, we could not give it to anyone else before the board meeting. So it was, sunshine law requires either 2 days before the board meeting or at the board meeting itself. There's no in between. And I chose to do it at the board meeting itself because we just, don't have administrative staff. So that's why. So, and you all know that you receive your board packet here. Okay. So we're gonna wait for Marika to have her copy. But it should be fairly.
Please go ahead.
Okay, it should be fairly self-explanatory. I did send this to Anthony Crouch, who is our federal monitor, and he said it looks like preliminarily a good plan. So we're going to start with developing a transition plan, including timelines, and we need to have the board approve it by August 22nd. It still hasn't been fleshed out, but I think, oh, I'm sorry, this is the transition plan. So we need to meet after August 22 with with Mayor Derek Kawakami to lay out the transition plan. We need to have a memorandum of understanding. There is a plan, again, this is a plan depending on budget, because we have to explore all that. To hopefully hire an executive director, because we need somebody, boots on the ground there. We're going to need to, and by the way, all this transition plan was also hashed out during the time when Saco Partners was here. We met along with the ASO to talk about Kauai, and part of that, part of that discussion was really to figure out how, as a state board, we can still have impact and be able to fulfill the duties without necessarily being on Kauai. So that's why the idea of having an executive director panned out or was explored. The other thing is maybe have an advisory committee, not a board, not a formal board, but an advisory committee who can provide some input and insight into the possibilities, because if you take a look at the participation rate on Kauai, and I'm sure, the people at WDC are trying their best, but it needs much more than, that what their resources can offer at this point. So we need additional resources, we need additional focus on Kauai to help them improve the participation rate. So hopefully with this plan, we can create an advisory committee, having an executive director. But there are things that need to be in place, including an RFP for their service provider, because right now, technically WDD is their service provider. Yeah, because apparently at that time, there was no takers for the RFP. However, here's the interesting part. They returned out of the 500,000 that they had last year, they returned 250,000 to the state. So meaning there's some capacity there that probably can hire a executive director. So that's the goal. Melissa, you were at that conversation. Do you want to share a little bit more about the Kauai conversation that we had?
Sure. Yes, so the state operating as the local board for Kauai is definitely an interesting situation. It's not unheard of. You aren't the only state that has been in this situation. It's just, you have to divide your thoughts, right, between what you're doing as a state board and the responsibilities that you have there, and then what you're doing operating as the local board for Kauai and what you're doing there. So again, the promising practices that were suggested is having somebody dedicated to Kauai for the oversight, very similar to what Harrison, Chantel, Clinton are doing in their areas. And then again, like Bennett mentioned, that advisory council, if we cannot get the mayor, and I think there's been talks about maybe trying to down the road get Kauai back involved in their own, in their own local area. But in the meantime, to develop an advisory council from the same types of organizations and businesses in Kauai to talk about what the residents need there, the job seekers, the businesses, to provide that insight to the state board.
Marika, did you have any thoughts, any additional thoughts now that you have the?
Yes. So thank you. Okay, if you refer to, I think it's great if Kauai is exploring having this revived in their area. Back then, as if you look at the allocation, Kauai's administrative cost is limited to 53,000, which was insufficient to fund an executive director. So thanks to the generosity of the county of Kauai, they used to kick in their own funding to fund a staff to oversee and perform all the tasks necessary for the local board there. And of course, do the RFP. So regardless if you have the 5 million from the city versus 500,000 for Kauai, you're expected to do the same work to maintain that local area designation. So meaning you have to RFP the one-stop operator, because that's under regulations that is required to be procured, as well as procure a youth provider, because that's also required in the regulation, that those two have to be competitively procured. So given that, because of the limited funding, the allocation is based on the unemployment rate. So of course, as the economy picks up, the funding to these programs dwindle down, and as the economy is not so good, then of course the funding to Hawaii increases. So that's just how the formula works under these funding. So that's all I needed to say. So if the county is exploring doing everything that Harrison and his team are doing with the 53,000, and then willing to kick in additional funds to support the WIOA program on Kauai. Back then, the mayor, Mike Dahili, actually agreed that as long as they have a seat on the state board and have a voice on the state board to represent their local area's needs, then they are fine with the state board carrying out those functions.
Yeah, not a done deal yet, Marika. This is all exploratory, so we haven't really spoken to Mayor Kawakami yet. And again, this is all in influx and at the draft stage, but certainly I think it bears being discussed, and again, the transition needs to happen, and that we as a state board needs to how do you call it, step up to that role. But I think we need to underscore that at the end of the day, this should be a temporary situation. That we really would like to have Kauai be its own local area again. So we're going to encourage that and work towards that objective. Chair, that's it for Kauai.
Well, we're going to stay with you, Mayor Bennett, and hear more about the Wheel Academy for our board. I think that involves
Yeah, just
Go
a
ahead,
quick
Suffolk.
one. We're working with Suffolk Partners to create the WIOA Academy so that each of our board members would be more familiar and conversant about WIOA. But some of the things that we are on the, I guess, on the list, firewalls, flow of funds, allocation formulas, negotiated performance matrices, and of course, Kauai. That's it, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think we were coming down to the last items here. Any public announcements or testimony? Entertain that most. Okay, see anything else? I don't think we have anything else. Please be advised that in compliance with the Sunshine Law, the committee cannot discuss, or just a reminder here, or act on issues that were not included in this meeting's agenda, but issues raised during this period may be included in a future agenda for the committee's consideration. A little Sunshine Law reminder on that. Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for October 25th at 1 p.m. This is for the executive committee, from 1 to 2:30. Say,
Excuse me, Chair.
yes, sir.
The 25th is a Friday, not a Thursday.
No, Friday, sorry. Okay.
Or I don't know if you're on a Thursday, the 24th, but
Thursday,
Okay, thank you.
24th. Okay.
24, October. Thank you. We'll send out a reminder as well. It'll be in room 317, 310.
317 for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, all right. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you to Amanda and Melissa. I don't know which time zone you're in, but I gotta believe it's past dinner time for you folks. So at this point,
No,
go ahead.
thank you. It is 8 o'clock here in the Midwest, but I love spending time with you guys, and honestly, your guys' backdrops even on Zoom are beautiful, so it's worth the meeting.
Yeah, and envious of Kelly's backdrop
Kelly
there.
and Lloyd.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. It's a little after 3, so thank you all again, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone.